Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Syracuse Sports, our first officially of the summer. And boy, has summer arrived here in central New York. It's a scorcher out there, baby. So I hope you guys are staying cool wherever you are. And however you got this podcast, we appreciate that. Please subscribe, follow, do whatever you got to do to make sure when a new episode of Syracuse Sports pops up on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, that you will be in the loop and know, and you won't be out there at the water cooler on a hot day with everybody talking about all the great stuff that we talked about on the pod, and you weren't in the loop. So, well, what are you talking about? Well, if you're a Syracuse Sports Insider, you'll know exactly what we're talking about, because our Syracuse Sports Insiders get direct text message access to me. You can text me anytime, your thoughts, questions, opinions, your analysis on Syracuse sports. You get all of that from me. Any breaking news that I have, you guys get it first. Boy, what a busy weekend. Fran Brown was cooking, recruits committing all over the place after another official visit weekend at Syracuse. All that there, even basketball in the discussion. Basketball, late June, yeah. Kyan Anthony and company all arrived on campus this past weekend, and so much was cooking even on the lacrosse front. Reggie Thorpe got a huge 5-star flip in the recruiting world. Our Syracuse Sports Insiders were in the loop on that. We'd love for you to sign up today. It's just $3.99 a month to be a Syracuse Sports Insider, but try it free for 2 weeks. See how it's going, how you like it, and then you can cancel anytime. We hope you don't, but you can. But please give it a shot. The information right there on your screen. Join subtext.com/Syracuse Sports. So today the debate is this: should Syracuse give head football coach Fran Brown an extension? I thought this would be a great time to ask this question, because I think the immediate response a lot of people would have is, let's see how this season goes. Well, that's the easy way to answer this question. Let's ask the question and debate the question when there's still a little mystery, a little tension, and a little bit of a debate. If Fran Brown goes out and wins 7, 8, 9 wins this year, I don't think there's any question that John Wildhack will have to extend Fran Brown. But we're still in that area where maybe you don't have to. It is still somewhat of a question. So that's why I summon Javon, Edmonds, Chris Carlson, the syracuse.com football coverage team. Chris took the yes side. Javon took the no side. I interjected some questions and commentary as well. We had a great discussion about that coming up. But I did throw the question out there to our Syracuse Sports Insiders as well. And I want to get their thoughts on this, and then I'll tell you what I think about this very question. But RJ says this: I don't care if Syracuse wins one game this year. They should absolutely give Fran an extension. The turnaround in the program since he's been here rivals any school in the country. Frankie F says, I love what Fran has done so far, but I think we need another year or two of positive results, both on the field and in recruiting, to warrant an extension. Gene says this: there isn't just one great season, so pay the guy. It's an entire culture shift that's happening right before our very eyes, and it's the most exciting thing to happen here in 30 years. David says, I think they need to wait and see what happens this year, especially with the kind of schedule they have. If they go 6-6 and a bowl win, they should definitely give him an extension. Nick says this: the school needs to lock him up long-term with a 10-year contract that'll lucratively compensate him, but also have a massive buyout that will protect the program if he gets an offer that he can't refuse. Craig says this: let's not Babers him quite yet. Something we'll get into with Chris and Javon and the Dino Babers, what turned out to be kind of a panic extension at the time. And Kate does not hold back. She says, oh, hell yeah. That would be crazy not to. He's been one of the best things to happen to Syracuse. I love his attitude, and I would run through a brick wall for him. So it was interesting to see the responses, just a sampling there from our Syracuse Sports Insiders. There was no gray area here. Either a hard yes or a hard no. But I love that there's still somewhat of a question here. But year two, of course, is going to answer a lot of these questions and will demonstrate the, let's say, how can I put this? How much in a hurry Syracuse is going to be to either extend Fran Brown or say, whoa, let's hit the brakes on that and see. But John Wildhack would be smart, and I'm sure he's already doing this, to prepare to pounce when the moment becomes obvious, if the answer to that question becomes yes. And certainly based on everything we've seen so far, there's no reason to believe it won't. Now, I want to answer this before we get Chris and Javon involved in the discussion here. Should Syracuse give Fran Brown an extension? Well, let me change the wording of my own question here. Should Syracuse give Fran Brown a raise? Now we're talking. I don't think they need to give Fran Brown an extension. An extension comes with many years of money you're going to have to pay out one way or the other for Fran Brown not to coach here if he goes somewhere else or if he doesn't work out. But to give Fran Brown that money now while he's under contract, I think you focus on that. Now, we don't know what Fran Brown's contract is. That's the beauty of, in Syracuse's eyes, being a private school, right? We can't look at the details and say, oh my God, you are totally underpaying this guy or overpaying this guy, which given Syracuse's history, I don't think we're leaning there. And he's a first-year head coach. It's not like Syracuse swooped in and gave him a top 25 contract in college football. But I think you can take care of some anxiety that Fran Brown would want to leave. Other schools will try to poach him, whatever your anxiety comes from. If you just give him a bump in pay while he's still under contract, whatever that contract is, 4 years, 5 years, we don't know. But I would focus on giving Fran Brown a raise, and I would also get in there with my lawyers, and I would massage what the buyout is. Now, bottom line here, guys, if an SEC or Big Ten school in the near future or whenever it shall be really wants Fran Brown, they're going to get Fran Brown, right? Jimbo Fisher got $75 million to not coach Texas A&M. That's the kind of money we're talking about. Now, that's an extreme example, either by SEC terms, but every school in the SEC and every school in the Big Ten, based on the television dollars and all that they're getting, which is only going to go up in the new contracts once they start kicking in. If they really want Fran, they're going to get him no matter what the buyout is in his contract. But you know what? Still make it uncomfortable, still make it hard, still make somebody look at it and at least pause before they say, okay, it's going to hurt, but we really like this guy and we're going to pay it out. And at least if you're Syracuse, you said we did all we could, given where Syracuse stands in this discussion, to prevent a talented coach that we found took a chance on and developed, right? Now, Fran, to his credit, has said in his opening press conference and other places since that he is committed to Central New York. He's committed to Syracuse, building things here and making this where he builds his brand. This is his school that he took over in the sense this was his first head coaching gig, right? He respects the history, but the recruits, the transfers, the people that have come in, they talk of Syracuse football through the mold of Fran Brown. They know the history, they respect the history, but there's a new blood feel when it comes to what Syracuse football is in the here and now, which Fran Brown wants to continue to build on. I think you invest in that. Easier said than done, but these are hard decisions that have to be made at high levels. I get that you got to pay $20.5 million through the House settlement to all sports, but mostly to football and basketball, right? I get that NIL is an issue these days, the transfer portal and everything that you have to deal with in the modern era of college football. But what has not changed is that the head football coach is the most important position in any athletic department. And Syracuse has to find the money somewhere. That's your problem, not mine. But you've got to give Fran Brown a raise. An extension, I don't think is that important, right? Adding a 6th, 7th, 8th year, whatever the details would be, I don't think is a priority right now. But I do think you got to send a message, give him a raise, up the buyout, and work from there. Let's see what Chris and Javon have to say. Before we get to them, though, a reminder that we love to feature your original music here on Syracuse Sports. And got a great new band here, including a Syracuse alum in the group. They're called Ginger Sling. You can find them on Spotify, YouTube, all the details on where you can find them in the show notes. And this is a song called Sybil Vane. I want to thank Ben K, Syracuse Sports Insider, who made me aware of these guys, sent me the link. And if you want your original music featured here on Syracuse Sports, all the info is in the show notes. Just send me a note and we'll make it happen. So let's listen to Ginger Sling, and then we'll listen to what Chris and Javon have to say about extending Fran Brown.
The Chicagoan winds held me in a cage till they blew me to the stage. A purple ribbon wrapped around the balcony. Couldn't close, the view was free. But she flew down the mezzanine, revealing worlds I'd never
So we have put the football band back together here in late June, July approaching. And look, before you know it, guys, it's going to be training camp. Not that we've had a shortage of things to talk about because Syracuse football is very active on the recruiting front as of late. So please check out all that coverage on syracuse.com. But I wanted to get Chris and Javon together to discuss a simple question. And that simple question is this: should Syracuse extend the contract of head football coach Fran Brown? Chris is going to take the yes side. Javon is going to take the no side, and I'll kind of moderate and interject some things as we discuss here. But gentlemen, welcome. Hope you're having a great summer so far as we swelter here in central New York under 95-degree temperatures here. Hope the AC is working well where you gentlemen are today.
Yes, the office where the AC is free is the place to be during the summer.
Yeah, I'm just leaving the office, and getting back into my apartment where our air conditioning system is prone to go off at any minute. It's working right now, so I'll take what I can get.
Very good. Thank you to William Carrier, of course, longtime business here in central New York for the great invention of air conditioning.
Are we allowed to say that word?
I just did. Sorry, I might get fined for that by some people up at Syracuse. There's still a little sign outside the dome where it recognizes history, right? And
the tombstone, the Carrier tombstone down at the bottom is a source of never-ending amusement to me. It looks like a tombstone.
R.I.P. I can say it because I'm old school, right? All right, gentlemen. I have a coin. I'm gonna do a coin flip. Javon will be heads. Chris will be tails. Here we go. Whoever wins goes first in the debate. Should Fran Brown get an extension? And it is tails. So, Chris, I'm going to give you the floor and as much time as you need to present the case of why the answer to that question is yes.
Oh, I don't need any time. Well, I mean, we watched last season.
Oh.
Like
throwing the heat, and I love it.
It has been 30 years since Syracuse had a better season than that. 30 years since Paul Pasqualoni went 10-2 in back-to-back years, 30 plus. So if that is not good enough for somebody to get a raise and extension, just I think we just need to understand the history here. Now, I will say, it takes two to agree on a contract extension, right? So there is a big caveat here that Fran Brown cannot be forced to sign a contract extension, and John Wildhack cannot offer money that he does not have and doesn't exist and can't afford to pay at Syracuse. So I do not doubt that John Wildhack understands this logic and would like to sign Fran to a reasonable extension. The challenge is sort of coming to a common sense middle point. But to me, Fran is a guy that probably means it more than most coaches when says he wants to stay in central New York. He is young, he is energetic, so he doesn't strike me as the type of guy that's gonna, get his big extension and be content. I think he showed enough that I believe he's a good coach with the potential of being a great coach. And Syracuse needs to reward those people and show them they're valued and value that relationship. So Syracuse needs to at least try. Now, Jimmy Sexton is Fran Brown's agent. Probably not the easiest guy to get to agree to terms, given the amount of leverage he has. But Syracuse should at least be offering more money, more years, and showing that level of respect to a guy who did a tremendous job in year one.
Great Jimmy Sexton reference, the most powerful man in college football that a lot of people have not heard of. But trust me, he is Scott Boras, especially when it comes to those coaching contracts. Okay, Javon, floor is yours, my friend. Counterpoint.
I want to start this around the horn segment with I cannot stand the Scott Boras, Rich Paul, and Jimmy Sextons, of the sports world. Get that out the way. My answer is no, and it'll be as simple as Chris's answer was yes. It's been 1 year. Call me old-fashioned. I still believe in the 3-year rule in college football. For those who aren't familiar, you don't know until your third year how good your first graduating class is. Like, not the class that came from the other coaching staff, not your transfers. Like, you got here, Fran's first graduating class is going to be technically the high school class of 25, really the high school class of 26, right? So I want to see me personally, I want to see what the class of 26 turns into, because I don't really put as much stock as others into what you've done with the guys that another program has developed and then that you took advantage of. Like, Fran, you are known as a recruiter, right? I want to know what the guys that you recruited ultimately pan out to be. Do you have a track record of those guys working out? Yeah, sure. I've seen it myself. Without Fran Brown, my alma mater probably doesn't lead the group of 5 in NFL products. Absolutely. However, this isn't the group of 5. This is the ACC, where you're seeing Clemson, you're seeing Miami, you're seeing Florida State, and you're seeing what the ACC hoped would also be in that conversation in Virginia Tech. Are you going to be up there with those guys? And now SMU's kicking money all over the place like it's the 80s all over again. Is your class going to stack up to those guys? That's number one. Number two, had a very good first season. Your only walloping was against Pitt, so very bold to schedule them for homecoming in this upcoming season.
Right.
Which is really the emphasis of what I'm about to get into here. You have a schedule coming up that if you make a bowl game, it will be considered job well done. Can you repeat some of the magic you had from last season? I need to see sustained consistency before I begin offering someone a contract. I can't give you, 1 year. 1 year got Ubaldo Jimenez paid, and my Orioles have been paying for it ever since. I can't pay someone after 1 year. I've never liked the athlete that, hey, for 4 years you've been up and down, then your contract year comes and you're an all-pro. No. I need to see it sustained consistently. So let's get through 2025, excuse me. And maybe in, December of 25, January of 26, my answer changes. But after one season, I'm not quite ready to say yes.
Couple of points there. One, I think you make a fair point about the 3-year plan. I guess my question would be, does the 3-year plan still exist in college football in 2025? So I want to get your answer on that. But I also want to say this. Once upon a time, Syracuse did this. And that wasn't so long ago. In 2018, Dino Babers won 10 games. And I distinctly remember the calls from Syracuse fans, the hashtags. I was on sports talk radio at the time, the phone calls that I took, and from wherever you want to get the message. And that was to extend, and the hashtag was pay Dino, right? And that came at a time when Syracuse, and Chris brought up the reference, it had been a long time since they had seen a 10-win season. And I brought up this reference in the open of the show, guys. The only time I ever got in trouble, it's going to be a weird reference, but trust me, this will circle around. The only time I ever got in trouble when I was on the Buffalo Bills radio network was when I criticized the Bills for giving an extension to Ryan Fitzpatrick. Because Ryan Fitzpatrick came out, did his Fitz magic, and it had been so long since the Bills had seen quality quarterback play that they just threw a bunch of money at a guy that showed he can play consistently over 7, 8, 9 games. I got those vibes in 2018. Dino with a great quarterback and Eric Dungy in a season where everything went right in 2018. Syracuse fans were so starved for something consistent, and they thought they were seeing it, that they wanted it locked down. They had a quarterback of the future, so we thought, and Tommy DeVito coming in, and it looked like things were going in the right direction. So there's a cautionary tale there. But we're in a different time in 2025 here. If you have a coach that can show, they can recruit, they can work the portal, and they have the connections to do so, I think you got to think seriously about extending a coach like that if you're John Wildhack and all parties involved. But Javon, let me go back to you with your 3-year plan. Do you still think that's a sustainable window of observation, even in the world we live in today in college football?
Yes, I do. I don't think we see too many guys staying at a spot for 2 years and then leaving. Like, the guys are still sticking around for 3 or 4 years before they get their next job. Like, we're not at the level that college basketball is starting to get to, where, you know, you can spend 1-2 years at Utah State and then get the Virginia Commonwealth job once Mike Rhodes leaves for Penn State. That hasn't made its way to football yet. And I really don't think it's ever going to happen in football because, like, you know, basketball has been one and done for a very long time. Football is always going to be, you know, it's not your team until your junior year. And that's still only if you're one of those guys. Not many guys play as freshmen. Not many play as sophomores. Like, this is still the sport where experience matters. So until your guys become the experienced players of the team, and those are the ones that determine the success of your team, we don't know how good of a coach you really are. Because cut and dry, no matter how much college sports turns into professional, like, recruiting and development is still going to be the name of the game. Like, Kirby and Saban while he was still around, and, you know, Riley when he was at OU, like, did those guys get the best of the rest? Sure. But, like, what made those teams national championship contenders, they still had a lot of their own homegrown guys. You still need homegrown guys in college football. So I've got to see if your homegrown guys pan out before I crown you as, you know, the next savior. You said Babers, you know, everyone was hype on him. That was year 3. He went 4-8 2 years before that. He went 10-3 in 2018. And that 10th win was a bowl game, just like Fran's was. For me, also, I do not mean to sound like a hater. Once again, call me old-fashioned. To me, 10 wins mean you got those 10 wins in your 12 regular season games, not your bowl game win. Now, did 2024-25 kind of change things a little bit in terms of some players started caring about bowl games again? Absolutely. And it was refreshing, so I won't complain too much. But for me, 10 wins coming in 12 games as opposed to 13 games still means a little bit of a difference for me. But still, Babers went 4-8 for 2 years, 10-3, and then 5-7, 1-10, 5-7 again. Like,
And to be
cautionary tale was the phrase you used earlier. I wouldn't fall for that trap again. History has a tendency to repeat itself.
And to be fair to that point, Syracuse was a bought-in team. Washington State was a fractured team in that bowl game. So I get that point. Chris, I turn to you with pretty much the same question. Does the modern era of college football as we know it benefit the yes argument? Because we don't have time to mess around here. If we find a coach that's got the qualities we think can do what Javon said, 3-year plan, 4-year plan, whatever the long-term is in the ever-changing world of college football, does that help your argument to lock somebody down like that?
I don't need to wait 3 years to know that Fran Brown is the best recruiter that we have seen here in a long time, and to think that he is bringing in more talent than any of those guys in very recent history. So certainly I think the talent coming in, he has elevated that. Now, Javon makes a good point. Can he then recruit and develop those guys? We have not seen that yet. But I saw enough last year that makes me think Fran is a good coach. That team got better over the course of that season. And it has been a long time since we have seen a Syracuse football team get better as the season has actually gone on. And that to me is a product of good coaching and guys improving. Kyle McCord, we mentioned Eric Dungy, right? And a lot of people say that Eric Dungy made Dino Babers a lot of money. Dungy was a different type of quarterback where if things went wrong around him, he was able to do everything and make plays and make chicken salad out of chicken, you know what? like Kyle McCord was not that type of quarterback. Now he was a great quarterback, and we will see this year what Fran Brown can do with a lesser quarterback. But he was a quarterback that needed everything to go right around him for it to work. Like the other players on the team had to be well coached and execute exactly how they were supposed to execute for Syracuse to get the most out of Kyle McCord. And that happened. So I think I know Fran Brown is a good coach. And at Syracuse, like, a good coach is worth extending because they are not going to pay for a great coach. Like, you are not going to pay for and just go out and buy a great coach. You are going to have to develop a great coach internally. And like, Fran Brown is as good a bet at that as I think Syracuse is going to get. I think, the last thing I'll say is, right. We know Fran can take some, we know how Fran can manufacture disrespect, right? We saw that with Brent Key last year.
Yes, we did.
We know that man can motivate himself and take the smallest slight and turn it into something. So I'm offering him more money and I'm offering him more years because I do not want to be perceived as disrespecting him.
Well, let's throw this out there, gentlemen. We don't know what Fran Brown's contract is, right?
That's important. It's important.
Which is an important element in this discussion, because if it was something where he was in that USA Today declaration every year and Syracuse was a public school, we could look at the contract and say, oh my God, you are totally underpaying this guy. You have to extend him, right? The cloud of mystery that surrounds this is an advantage in a way. It's a disadvantage in others, right? And I think it's an advantage to the yes question, because if you're a fan and you're getting that anxiety about not wanting to lose the quality of a coach and a Fran Brown, you're just going to say, give him what he wants here. But I guess the question is, since we don't know what the parameters of the contract are, and when I speak of the modern era, I also speak of the era where now you got to pay athletes $20.5 million, which Syracuse has bought into. Now you have this NIL bucket over here. Javon, you and I were at the Orange Football NIL golf tournament. That was all for NIL, right? Could they have some sort of fundraiser, if you will, to put in the Fran Brown extension fund? Sure. I'm sure they could do that too, right? But how does the mystery, and Javon, I'll turn to you on this, of Fran's contract factor into this discussion, in your opinion?
It factors into the discussion on our end just because, like, we're having a conversation without having all of the information, right? So that kind of hinders a point of, because I could say an extension is a no-no, but a raise is needed, right? But don't know how much is being paid. Should he be paid as one of the, should he have a top 30 salary in the country? Absolutely. Does he have a top 30 salary in the country?
No.
Probably not.
I'm fairly confident saying no to is the
so
answer.
If you ask me,
why would he? Why would he? Right? He's a first time head coach. There was not a huge market for him coming out. There's no way that you would pay him that in the initial contract right off the bat, right?
Right. So in that case, I could say I absolutely agree that he's underpaid and deserves a raise. Now, if the only way he can get a raise is through an extension, then I'm forced to change my answer. But if you can, hey, let's get the lawyers down and amend this contract a little bit to where we boost your pay, but we don't add any years to it yet, then my answer can stay the same. But that's where it comes from. Like, hey, listen, how badly is he underpaid? That's what impacts this conversation.
Javon, I think you just hit the bell. I wanted to start with the question of should Fran Brown get an extension, but by extension, to use that pun, if you give a coach an extension, you're giving him a raise as well. So is there a way that Syracuse can give Fran, and we don't see the contract, maybe it's literally in there. We all see, I love when the bonuses come out, coaches get $500,000 for going to a bowl game and $1 million for winning the conference, whatever the case may be. Fran Brown may have some of those parameters in his contract for 10 wins, for a bowl game, for whatever the case may be. So some of those things may actually be factoring in, and we just don't know about it because, as you said, we don't have all the information here. But I guess maybe the better question is, A, do you give Fran Brown a raise without having to commit to further than what the contract is now? And B, is the most important thing here the buyout? Because I think we all know, gentlemen, and tell me if you disagree, but if an SEC or a Big Ten school really wants Fran Brown, they're going to get Fran Brown, because there's just not a buyout out there that a serious SEC or Big Ten school is going to look at, especially one, frankly, at Syracuse. Now, I'll give Jimmy Sexton a little bit of confidence there that he put a nice buyout in the contract, or eventually will. But we're talking in a world where Jimbo Fisher got $75 million to leave Texas A&M. If somebody really wants Fran, they're going to get him. So I guess, does it really matter what the buyout is? And what do you think about the raise aspect of it? Chris, I'll start with you.
I mean, the buyout matters because that's how, I over the weekend, right, I wrote about Syracuse's sort of financial situation as an athletic department, and they're going to pay athletes the maximum amount, we think, pretty much every year moving forward, but they don't know where the money's going to come from. Like, they have to find it. Like, that's what the buyout is for, right? Like, if somebody comes and gets your coach, if Georgia or Alabama decides Fran Brown is our guy and Syracuse can't compete there, well, at least they've got their NIL program funded well funded from the buyout. Now, if you want the buyout to be bigger, you have to give him something. He is not just going to sign a contract with a bigger buyout just for the heck of it. You have to give him more years, or you have to give him more money. So, I mean, again, like, if I'm Syracuse, like, when I look at the initial contract, I probably wish the buyout was higher, because I wouldn't have been inclined to give him to make that part of it from the start or have it as high. So, like, I know that I'm going to have to give him a raise, or I'm going to give him more years in order to raise the buyout. And, like, I want to do that. That is something I want to do.
Javon, what do you think about that aspect of it?
So there's two sides to the buyout. There's one, he's so good that someone has to come get him, which is where, the buyout comes from. But then there's also and I don't think this is going to happen at all. So don't bite my head off of this. But there's also hey, this guy's just not living up to his contract part, where, hey, you probably got to let him go.
Yeah, we just saw
you're paying him to sit on the couch, right? So that's also the tricky thing with the handling of funds is, okay, you extend him and he doesn't pan out, and you gave him a raise on that extension, whichever extension is. Now that's more money that's going to come back to bite you in the butt if he doesn't work out. So it's that risk that you also take when it comes to, the whole buyout thing in the contract. But I do think someone coming to grab him is the more likely scenario. The other thing I would consider with this, and we were just talking to our boss Nate in the office about this before we hopped on, is when it comes to an extension, how much urgency is there to extend them? Mm-hmm. And to me, that means what jobs are going to be open soon that fit Fran Brown. Like, is Norvell or Napier going to be gone from Florida State or Florida anytime soon? Or is Cristobal going to be gone from Miami? Or is Kirby Smart going to retire from Georgia at some point? Is there some school in the SEC or ACC that's going to have an opening anytime soon that says it is worth me leaving Syracuse to go there? And on that school's end, do we trust Fran Brown to be the guy to come lead us coming from Syracuse? And I just don't see many future openings. I think Lenore Sellers is going to save Shane Beamer down at South Carolina. I don't think Kirby's leaving soon. Billy Napier had a great end to last season and has gotten better on the recruiting trail. Mario Cristobal was bringing guys in. It's just about him coaching in the fourth quarter at this point. So I don't know how many openings there are that suit Fran coming up in the near future. Maybe if Penn State says they are sick of James Franklin not being able to beat the same two schools, and it's about to become three because he's never going to beat Oregon either. I don't think Rutgers is moving on for Schiano anytime soon. And then the Mike Loxley and Maryland situation, I can't read at all. Me personally, being the grandson of a Maryland grad, I'm sick of Maryland even pretending to care about football. Like, just be the basketball and lacrosse school that you are, to be honest with you. So I don't know if there's urgency from that side of it for Fran Brown to even, like, need an extension because I don't know what jobs are going to be open that fit his hiring profile right now.
I think it's a great point. Why would you're not going to leave for a job. You're going to leave for a great job, a job that you cannot turn down, right? Even if you're Fran Brown. And Chris brought this up earlier, where I believe Fran, and I think he's got some skin in the game, is he's a Camden, New Jersey guy. He has respect for Syracuse. He wants Northeast football to succeed, and he sees an opportunity to build his own little, for lack of a better term, his own little dynasty up here. Maybe that's not the right word, but there was an opportunity to build something that had a reputation, that certainly had a history, but had been down by its standards. And now you're seeing all these recruits and transfers and people coming in that speak of Syracuse with a new reverence. It's not old Syracuse. It's new Syracuse, what it is now, but it has the history to back it up with the facilities and some of the things that they had to polish up in terms of 2025. Now, let me throw this question out there, guys. How much of this is Fran, and how much of this do you want to see? And again, the money's got to come from somewhere. Syracuse invest in its coaches. And we saw it in this offseason. Jeff Nixon got some bites elsewhere, got an interview with the Houston Texans. Nunzio Campanelli had some interest from the Philadelphia Eagles. They lost Ross Douglas to Oregon, and it cost him a big recruit in Messiah Hampton, who literally told you, Javon, right, that if Ross Douglas was still here, he would have come to Syracuse, which shows you the relationships that coaches have. So how much can Fran be the glue that holds this all together? Because he's clearly showed that his initial hires in coaching were great coaches, great recruiters, great connectors, but they all want to be head coaches themselves some days, and they're all talented guys that are also going to be targets to be plucked out there from other coaching staff. So, Chris, I guess, is it more important to invest in Fran or to invest in that and give Fran the infrastructure he needs to keep that coaching staff intact as much as possible?
I mean, you need both, right?
That's
right. Like
that's
you
the
need
chicken
both.
or the egg thing. Yeah.
Because like you're not keeping Fran if Fran doesn't think that he can hire a good staff. But to me, like right, he showed he brought in Ross Douglas, was a very young guy. Right. Fran showed an ability to identify really promising young coaches and built his staff that way. So to me, you always have to keep the head guy. Now, the head guy does not walk on water. As good a coach as I think Fran Brown is. Like, he can't make miracles happen without good assistance. So you need money in both pools. You cannot break the bank for Fran and then not have anything for his assistants. But I also don't think Fran's signing on for that deal, right? This is a detailed coach who is going to want to know, how much am I going to have for NIL? How much am I going to have for my assistant coaches pool? And I don't think he's going to sign at a place that's trying to cheat him in those areas. So to me, I think you need both. I think Javon makes a very good point in terms of I don't know how much leverage Fran has where you need to pay him. But I don't think you want that. If you're Syracuse, I don't think you want that to be your relationship and your reputation. They're like, we're not going to extend you unless we need to. It's like, no, you did a great job and we are going to reward you for that in year one. And that's how we're going to do business here. That's how I would like to see, Syracuse make things happen.
So, Javon, I appreciate you falling on the sword and being the no guy. And sorry to interrupt you, but it's
a hard argument to make. I mean,
but let me throw this question into the point that you were about to make as well. For you, what turns a no into a yes?
8 wins this season. Because I think 8 wins this season is, hey, Fran, hey, hats off to you. Like, you deserve ACC Coach of the Year consideration. I really do.
They could be in the playoffs with 9. I mean, they could be Alabama, the last team out of the playoffs last year with 9. That's how tough the schedule is.
If everybody on this schedule is as good as they have the potential to be, because I can tell you right now, I pre-ordered College Football 26 last week, and Clemson's going to be the team I use online. I think Clemson's going into the season if I had a vote, would be in my top 5 for the preseason bowl, right? Actually, no, I do have a vote thanks to Chris Carlson.
Like I was going to say, you are an AP voter. There you go.
Clemson's going to get a top 5 vote from me this year, and let's get that out there. I plan on being a transparent voter. Like every Monday after the poll comes out, syracuse.com readers can bet that they'll see how I voted and get an explanation from me. Also, like Miami, the roster's great. SMU, I love the roster and the coaching staff. I do. Pitt, like before Eli Holston got hurt last year, that was a team. And Kyle Lewis is that guy at outside linebacker, right? So, and then, Carolina with Belichick. And I love Duke this year. I'm looking forward to that game. So we're finally going to see Fran Brown versus Manny Diaz as head coaches. I'm going to have my popcorn in the press box for that game, right? So, like, considering how tough this schedule has the potential to be, you get 8 wins, I'm coming to you with a blank check. You tell me how much you want, how much you need to keep your coaches, because he does have that working for him when it's time to go to the negotiating table. Like, hey, the only reason I didn't get us the number 1 player in New York is because y'all couldn't pay my guy who left for Oregon, right? So that works for him. And like you said, he, did a good job at identifying coaches his first year around. What he did was he got guys that reminded him of himself, to be quite frank with you. So that works for him. 8 wins this year, you can have whatever you want. You won't hear a no out of me. It's just after 1 year, and like it's nothing against Fran. It could be anybody. I'm not a guy that says you pay someone after 1 year.
Gentlemen, I wonder how we've swayed the audience one way or the other. It's one of those, I asked our insiders, which I gave some comments earlier from our Syracuse Sports Insiders. It was an interesting divide. There's no gray area in this discussion. You either are a hard yes or a hard no. And I appreciate both of you offering both of those perspectives here. And as noted, there'll be plenty of things to keep track of over the summer. Chris and Javon and I will be all over for you. And, of course, follow on our Syracuse Sports Insider text line for all the latest. But, gentlemen, thank you so much for hopping on today. Stay cool out there. And, of course, we'll be doing this again soon. Training camp will be right around the corner. Thanks so much to Chris and Javon for their insight on that discussion. A lot of fun. And as we talked about, before you know it, kids, it's going to be training camp, and we'll be diving into the 2025 version of Syracuse football, but with recruiting going on, and just feels like there's no off season when it comes to Syracuse football. We'll stay on all of that for you. So check out the coverage on syracuse.com. And of course, our Syracuse Sports Insiders will hear about all of it first. Thanks to our insiders for their great comments on the show today. Being a Syracuse Sports Insider gives you direct text message access to me anytime. Including, by the way, guys, who do you want to hear on the pod? What do you want to hear on the pod? I'll tell you what, summer will fly by, but we've got about a month or so where we can have some fun, be relaxed a little bit more. We're not covering the daily grind of what's going on with Syracuse athletics because, of course, we're in the summertime and things slow down a little bit. So we can have some fun, get creative. I'm sure another Axe, Brent, anything is coming your way soon. I have a couple other guests and a couple other things that I'm working on for the pod that I think you guys will really enjoy. But I'm always up for your suggestions. So please get in touch. That's one of the benefits of being a Syracuse Sports Insider is you can keep the conversation going and have direct text message access to me anytime. Sign up today at joinsubtext.com/Syracuse Sports. I would remind to please follow and subscribe wherever you get your pods on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever it shall be, so you don't miss out when a new episode of Syracuse Sports is available to you. And if you want your original music featured here on Syracuse Sports, all the info is in the show notes. Get in touch, and I would love to feature your original music here. Ginger Sling, Sybil Vane. We played a little bit of it earlier in the pod, and this is what we do for you when we feature your original music. We give you a little taste of it earlier in the pod, but then we'll play a song in its entirety to end the podcast. So go follow them, get all their great music, their Spotify channel, and all their info is in the show notes. Let's take a listen to Sybil Vane to take us out here on this episode of Syracuse Sports. See you next time, guys.
The Chicago wind winds held me in a cage till they blew me to the stage. A purple ribbon wrapped around the balcony. Curtain closed, the view was free. But she flew down the mezzanine, revealing worlds I'd never seen. Long ago, gave up in miracles, a blackened picture on the wall. With her lips, she lost magic. With her lips, she shakes it away. In my midsummer dream, she's Sybil Bay. As I trembled on the edge of the chair, I do admit it wasn't fair. The balcony became the palm of her hand, and in her eyes I couldn't stand. She gave a bow, she gave a smile. She had me bleeding within now. Long ago, gave up in miracles, a blackened picture on the wall. With her lips, she lost magic. With her lips, she shakes it away. In my midsummer dream, she's Sybil Bay. With her lips, she lost magic. With her lips, she shakes it away. In my Verona dream, she's Sybil Bay. Oh, with her lips, she lost magic.